Bruce, thank you. We'll let you keep making coffee, but we'll kick off with our next workshop. So this next deep dive is into placemaking. So last year's conference was, as you might recall, was really focused on placemaking and the opportunities available to local governments across Queensland, and how the Queensland government is trying to tidy up a few things to make placemaking a little bit easier. So what we wanted to do, talking through today, is hear from one of our SBF members, Ipswich, about a significant placemaking activity they've done through their city centre. So I won't steal their thunder. And then after that, we've got Angela from Renew Australia to talk to you as well about a little program that we've put together in partnership with Renew Australia, which I'll introduce in a bit more detail just before Angela speaks. So without any further ado, Ipswich. And can I encourage everyone throughout today, sorry, stop making your way up. I just remembered, can I encourage everyone to hashtag small business friendly across socials, please? And we've got our media wall set up over here, so come and grab a photo today with you and your colleagues. Grab some snaps, hashtag small business friendly, hashtag QSB commissioner, if you'd like to tag us as well. But please do that. It all helps build some momentum for our small businesses across the state. Sorry, thank you, Ipswich.
Hello, good morning, everyone, and hello to everybody online as well. My name's Erin Marchant. I am the place manager in Ipswich City Council, and I work specifically on the Ipswich Centre Revitalisation, which is what we're going to talk a little bit about today.
And I'm Naomi George, and I work in economic development in placemaking and local business.
Perfect.
Oh, sorry. What is placemaking? So I will get you to start straight away with just writing something down.
Could we just get you to stand right on my
Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Nice and clear.
What is placemaking to you? So if you've got the pen and paper there, just to make a quick sentence and write down in your words, relevant to your council, what placemaking means to you. And I'll just give you a minute, because that'll help just sort of shape what we're going to go through.
And if you're online, if you want to pop it in the chat box, that would be great.
Oh, yeah. Okay, while you're finishing that off, I'll just talk about, for us, placemaking is really a multifaceted approach to planning, design, management of public spaces, and placemaking capitalises on a local community's assets, inspiration and potential, with the intention of creating public spaces that improve the urban vitality and promote people's health, wealth, happiness and well-being, and providing that sense of community and looking at the spaces between buildings. So not just sort of like, something that might be glaringly obvious to you. It's looking at the negative spaces that you can create into a positive environment. So
can we just get a little bit of some words from the group about what you think placemaking is or what it means to you in your council? Can we start with someone from this table here?
Contributing to the livability and vibrancy.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yep, next table.
Mention with creating space for your community to come together.
Over far.
and
Anything, words, even if it's just a word. Yep, back table. Perfect. And the middle table at the back.
Activating spaces that are relevant to the residents of business.
And the far back corner. Any words? I think there's some really common themes across that, and I think that really covers off what placemaking is to us as well. So that's really good to see that that understanding is quite broad from the local government perspective. Okay.
So yeah, how do we get there?
Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the journey that Ipswich City Council went on with placemaking. It was something completely new to council, and this is just a small representation of where we started. So this was part of a program of engagement that we undertook in 2021. We undertook an entire year of engagement, starting with internal stakeholders, and then we also looked at our external stakeholders, key to our city centre. So Ipswich Central is about 800 hectares of land broken up into 10 precincts. And this was just one of the activations that we did. So how we actually engaged with the businesses. So we started by walking the streets, and we had a small postcard with a QR code. And with that basically linked through to a website which enabled the community to be involved. So what we asked for was them to complete a small survey. We also asked for them to provide feedback on specific elements within Ipswich Central. And then we also had a third activity, which was, do you want to get hands-on with being involved with this revitalisation? So we did those walks around. We handed out about 400 postcards. We sent a lot of emails out to people as well. We held a business briefing, so we invited the businesses in. We also did those stakeholder interviews, and that culminated basically with an event which we called the Spark Lounge. Council was already running one of their major Ipswich festivals, which was called Spark, which is a up late, after dark illuminating light festival. And so we leveraged that event because we knew a lot of people would be coming into the city for that. And so we asked business owners to be involved. They could come set up a stand or a table free of charge and really promote their wares or their business and what they, how that fits in with the broader city centre. That event was really well attended. We had 20 businesses involved, and we also did 6 pop-ups in addition to that around the city. So they were at different events. We did it at some of our Queen's Park, which is near where our nature centre is. We did them outside our art gallery, outside our North Ipswich Rail Museum. We tapped into one of the football games with the Ipswich Jets. So we really tried to diversify where we held the pop-ups so we could really capture not only the community residents, but also the businesses that are involved in Ipswich Central.
Through the pop-ups, you can just sort of see along there's some the triangle boards, but there was like the dotmocracy and that. So we were able to sort of capture those conversations as well as recording the numbers of engagement that you had. So I'm just going to say, pulling that out of those little engagements, that didn't matter where they were, we still sort of managed to capture all of that.
And I guess the big purpose of the engagement is that we all know, and it's already been pointed out today, that council has limited resources and limited budgets. We know that we can't deliver everything by ourselves. So a key core to the centre of our engagement was that we really wanted to bring community on the journey with us, and we wanted the community to own this and get hands-on. So it wasn't just about council delivering, but it was about delivering in partnership with the community. So this is a little video about what happened in the Spark Lounge for the revitalisation.
We're here tonight at the Spark Lounge. This is a new initiative for Ipswich City Council, all about the Ipswich Central revitalisation.
We are working to support them in this process, and really excitingly tonight we've actually got 20 businesses here that are showcasing their wares, supporting each other and helping us to generate ideas. And what we're hoping to do is actually build on the ideas tonight and put together some action plans that are going to set the roadmap for community and businesses to work with council over the next 5 years.
What I love about Ipswich Central is the great sense of community spirit that exists amongst the locals.
It's a small country town, but it's a big city.
The people are amazing, and to have a small business here, you kind of become involved in people's lives, and that's really special. We love how Ipswich supports local music artists.
It's a closely knitted community,
lot of businesses and organisations that help each other.
There are so many diverse businesses, and that brings a bunch of fun people.
It sort of culminates all the historic value that Ipswich has with the new innovation that we are winning from the city these days.
What's being created is a dynamic hub that can kind of bring our stories and what's happening for the future as a growth area together.
There's already so many great things here in Ipswich Central, but it's really about building on those things that people love and then expanding that and bringing that life and activity out onto the street.
Okay, and then so through all the engagement that we did, the idea was to create a vision and strategy, which would actually help lead us and guide us through this process. So what we actually had in council already was a master plan. It was endorsed in 2009, but like many council documents, it had sat on a shelf. No one had actually taken that document and gone, how are we going to implement this? So while the information in the master plan wasn't necessarily incorrect, it actually gave us the opportunity to reframe it and to bring everyone on the journey. And one of those key parts of being on the journey was to making sure, as much as it was about the community and the business community, it was as much about that as the stakeholders inside council. So through this process, while we're engaging with the community, we were also engaging with our internal stakeholders. We had 28 different meetings with stakeholders. And through that process, we formed an internal working group, essentially, for Ipswich. So for the revitalisation, I should say. And then with that, once all the ideas were collaborated, we came back and we had a vision statement. So instead of having a master plan, we had a vision. So the vision that came from the community and from the internal stakeholders is that Ipswich Central is the cultural hub and beating heart of the Ipswich community. This was to differentiate ourselves from other centres within Ipswich and to make sure that it had its own identity and stood out on its own. With this, we had 6 principles that supported what we were trying to achieve. So a cultural destination, alive, green and connected, a home, prosperous and future focused. Now, these ideas weren't all brand new. These were often based on strategies that already existed. So we weren't starting from scratch, but it was about how we brought those all together. So from that, we had 3 documents that were created. So the first one was our prospectus. This has 44 different projects that should be delivered within this program of works. And some of those are short-term projects, some of those are long-term projects, and there's a lot in between. The second part of that was how do you get from 44 projects to then prioritising what's important and how do we do that? So we chose a set of criteria and that gave us 9 different items that we were going to focus on in Ipswich Central, and that was from our plans into action. So they were our key documents which we're going to work through. And the last one, and I think which has been the most important one to us, is our top of town and centre core place plans. So we've focused on 2 precincts out of the 10 because we already have a significant investment happening in those precincts. So we wanted to leverage that and we wanted to actually include the community in those visions and make sure that their voices were heard. So the really good thing about the place plans is it actually outlines some recommendations, it outlines timeframes, it outlines who should be included in each of those, like who the partners should be. So it's not just council delivering, it's community, it could be the Chamber of Commerce, it could be, we've got an Ipswich Stedford, they wanted to be part of it. So we have included all the partners, we've included the timing, and we've also included the cost. So it's very, very clearly laid out what are those small activities. And sometimes you do need those small activities until you get to the big activities. So in our plans to actions, we have big infrastructure projects like rail lines and bridges. We know that that's not going to happen tomorrow, but we need to actually keep the momentum going and start delivering on some of the smaller activities that the community has asked for, and we have worked through to actually achieve that. And the best part of the place plans is when we did the EOI process from the engagement, those people who wanted to get hands-on with the delivery of the Ipswich Central revitalisation were formed into a group called the Ipswich Central Partnership. Now, the partnership have been critical in this process. They have they took all the ideas initially, they refined them, they made them really easy and digestible for community to read. So anyone could pick up the book and go, oh, I could help out with that one, or oh, I could be part of this idea. I think I could, champion that project. And so they have been sort of taking that leadership role from that community, business, residents perspective with the place plans.
I was going to say, because that community group has, like Erin just touched on there, you've got just residents, you've got local businesses, and then you've just
people who work in Ipswich Central.
Yeah, I was going to say, so it's that real collective cohort that have got that cross sector of investment in it. So it's really effective.
And I guess the other thing about this vision and the strategies is that our project ties back into our corporate plan or strategic plan, if some of you had that instead. It's really key that we were making sure that what we were delivering on was actually reaching those milestones. So it is in our corporate plan. It is a catalyst project. It's also in our annual plan, our departmental plan, and our branch plan. So we actually need to make sure we are continuing to deliver, but actually looking at how are we delivering that at all levels, and how does that resonate with the mayors, the councillors, the branch managers. So how do you get that buy-in? So like what Luke was talking about before with, the mayor and the CEO at the bottom of those signature for small business friendly, this is how we sort of bring it back together and say, actually, this is why it's a deliverable. So then the Ipswich Central Partnership took a little bit of have really grown since they started. We wanted to be we wanted them to grow and be as hands-off as possible and let them sort of self-organise. But we did find that there was challenges with that. And so we actually started working with Town Team Movement. Town Team Movement is an organisation which was established in WA, but Ipswich Central Partnership was the first town team in Queensland. I know there's one now in Mackay, and I believe they're growing even more. But what Town Team did for this group was actually gave them the resources to help self-organise. So again, less reliance on council, we're there to support, but it actually gave them an opportunity to move forward with something they wanted to do.
Yeah, structure as well.
Yeah, structure. And without it being too formalised, because we know how we love it, formalising everything in government. So with the partnership, they took one of the ideas from the place plans and they decided they were going to run their first activation, which was the end of 2021, and it was called the Working Bee on Bell Street. And this is what they did with council supporting.
I'm in Bell Street and proudly in Bell Street today with all our members of our partnership group and a lot of members of the community as well.
We noticed that Bell Street is somewhere that people are seeing and coming in straight away, and it's looking a little bit tired and it could just do with a little bit of a jazz up. So as part of today's Cleaning Up Bell Street, we are collecting rubbish, removing graffiti,
gurning the streets, gurning the walls, sandpapering some timber seats.
We've also got our planting team where we're planting up some of the beds, and we've got our painting team. We've even attracted people who've hopped off trains and volunteered to do work today.
I think there's a lot of love for this city, and I think people really care and want to see this place shine.
The people that are in the Ipswich Central Partnership Group are businesses, local stakeholders, organisations and community members that are super passionate about Ipswich.
They're always very engaged and willing to share their ideas with council, and it's so wonderful to see the Clean Up in Bell Street come to fruition with so many people out in support.
Long-term vision for Bell Street is an interesting one. What we're looking at doing is actually forming a partnership and creating opportunities where community can come forward and express their voice. So my perfect vision would actually be promoting something that comes from within community.
There's been an argument that council should be doing this, but the value of the community doing it is incalculable.
Community-led activities like this are the best. This is what we're known for at Ipswich. We come together, we help each other out. It's just been a fun morning. So thank you very much to Ipswich Central Partnerships.
So I guess I should have said at the beginning, Bell Street is our main transport hub into Ipswich Central. So it's our buses, our train network. We used to have a transit centre at the bottom until it got flooded. And so it's a really core piece of infrastructure that actually a lot of people do use, but it also had a very, very poor I guess, perception in the community. We had a lot of homeless people. There was a lot of drug use. You know, during that day, the community were picking up needles. Like it's a very, very rough area.
It's very unloved, and it's that transient centre too.
Yeah.
So you've got lots coming and going. But I'm going to say, it'd be worthwhile pointing out Tall Man, who is a local Indigenous man, and so we were having a lot of issues on the street, but engaging with Tall Man. And then he actually did the painting on the seats, and all of them now have been painted.
Yeah.
But having that representation, he was actually then able to sort of speak to the mob, and one of the young ones graffitied some artwork that one of the schools had done on one of the boards. Anyway, so Tall Man put the word out, wanted to know who'd done it, and, you know, and then had a word with them. And so then the young person that had done that graffiti then became an advocate for, you know, taking pride in your sense of space. So it's been really great.
Yeah. And I guess with this activation, council supported, but in the way that the community Ipswich Central Partnership organised everything. So they worked with Clean Up Australia Day to get all the bags and gloves and so forth. They asked our maintenance team, our Works and Field Services team, for whether they had any leftover paint that they would be willing to donate so they could paint the really bad bus seats. They're just brown and ugly. So, you know, they donated that. We had some graffiti kits, so we donated those to the community group, but they self-organised everything. We didn't have a special space for the mayor to be up on a pedestal. The mayor turned up as a community member on the day. She was the one who, you know, put on her hat and said, I'm going to do the gardening. I'm going to be part of that. And so it was really nice to see that actually it doesn't matter what level you are, that everyone was treated the same that day, but it was all organised by this group. So we've talked a lot about buy-in, and with this project, I can't emphasise enough how much the internal buy-in has been important. The groups that we've set up and the governance surrounding the Ipswich Central revitalisation has been key to its success. And so I've just sort of added this governance model in to give you a little bit of an insight into sort of how it was set up initially. So place management team, that was me. I don't have a team, but that makes it look nice. That's aspirational. Naomi actually has assisted me with this in her role in the economic development team. So that's us. This subcommittee you see at the bottom, that is our internal working group. And so that group is made up of people that we feel are essential to get on board to actually to progress our projects. So when we had those initial conversations in the revitalisation, it was very clear from those conversations that there were certain people that must be included in this working group. So that was that. We then obviously looked at who would be our program champion or program sponsor. Normally within council, it's somebody that's related to the project. So in this instance, we chose our branch manager. So she was that champion for us. When we hit a roadblock, we would go to her, ask her, like, what are those things? How can you escalate this where we need it? She was the eyes and ears on the ground. And it's interesting, she actually left council, and then so there was a big gap there. So then we were actually looking about who else would we like to have as a champion for that project. And we looked at another general manager. So he covered the role while we recruited again. And now we've got the branch manager is our general manager. So it's actually escalated up to that program champion has actually gone higher up the food chain, I guess, to be an advocate for us and for the project. Then we looked at, okay, we're going to have to report on this, and we do need to keep those communication channels open. So who is it that we're going to promote to? So we knew that we need to get in front of the councillors and get them on board. And so we have already had an Ipswich Central Redevelopment Committee as one of our committees. So we made sure that we agreed that every 6 months we would do a 6-monthly report on all the activity that we'd done in Ipswich Central, and then tie it back into how it related to each of the principles and the vision that we were trying to achieve. And then obviously that group obviously goes up to the whole of council, the mayors and all councillors. We had we've got the Ipswich Central Partnership off to the side. Initially, when we set up the group, we thought we would have 2 groups, one for each precinct. But actually, as we started, we figured out that there was a lot of people that were wanting to cross over, especially the business owners. Even if they were located in top of town, they might have been interested in a different area. So we actually merged it into just the Ipswich Central Partnership. And then our aspiration was that we would create an expert advisory panel in the near future. That hasn't been formalised, but we do have quite a few key contacts that we call on to help with projects from time to time. So that's sort of how we've created it, but always coming back to, you know, how does it connect in with our corporate plan? How does it connect in with our annual plan? And are we delivering on something for council?
Yep. So I'm going to stop talking at you and get you to think and write again for a little bit. So going from what we've just discussed there, maybe think about a placemaking opportunity, but setting up a subcommittee within your own council. Who are those people that, maybe we go back to that slide, thinking about who you might need to have on board in that subcommittee to help progress some placemaking activities.
And we'll give you a couple of minutes just to write some notes. If you want to do it as a group at the table, that's fine as well. But just think about, if you don't have placemaking embedded in your council at the moment, then maybe think about who are those key people that you think you would need to progress, obviously, what you feel placemaking is in your organisation. So we'll give you 5 minutes to have a little brainstorm.
And it was interesting too, I'll sort of talk while you're doing that, but the, no, yeah.
Do you know what's really, I look at it here, but I'm forgetting that I'm not seeing that there, like beneath right.
Okay, how are we going? I might just bring you all back. Good conversation. Ding, ding, ding. Thanks, Luke. I mean, it's a great problem to have, but good conversations. Yeah, that's awesome. What I might do is just do again the same thing where we just sort of go around to each table and just see if there was like one key, like your top 3 people that you would probably, and see if we've got some consistency. So I'll just start here. Anybody want to speak? Permits and yeah, they're your blockers. In the middle,
Place manager at the start actually. So place manager, operations team, Hector.
Yeah, nice. On the far, are you? Yeah.
So do you have an internal working group that functions? Yeah. And who's your favourite people or the go-tos in that team?
So that is that meetings.
Yeah. Where does your team sit? Does it sit in economic development? Yeah. Yeah. And up the back?
Mayor and councillors, the planning team and communities.
Great. In the middle?
Planning that I'm drafting a grant for the community themselves to lead placemaking initiatives. And within that, I have to create an assessment panel.
Yeah.
And every council seems to be structured quite differently, but there's so many stakeholders outside of our department that need to be involved. I've got communities and culture, tourism and events, economic development, community master plan, strategic planning, local laws, because we administer the applications for dining, etc. So there's a lot involved there, and ideally we'd have a working group for the precinct. So, the chairperson of that, I'd say, but that's right.
Yeah. Right. Did you have anything up the back there? Yeah.
All departments really in council, local laws down there too. Project team, project infrastructure, cops and contact, project planning environment, and obviously our councillors, mayor and our ET team. But just choosing that right source of influence.
Yeah.
Everything most beneficial to the project within each of those.
Yes. Right. Yep. A lot of planning and permits being mentioned. One of our key guys or departments is the transport, and also planning and urban greening. So our parks and fields guys as well. So, all right. So moving on. So we've talked about sort of how we sort of built the placemaking, and then so actually doing something. We started with Parking Day, which was just a 3-day event, and we took car park spaces, 6 in total, 3 on one side, 3 on the other side. So you can imagine they wanted to burn us at the stake. And that's those conversations that, you know, Anna and Vicky talking about having with the community members and the businesses to just try and break through that mindset, and particularly for Ipswich too, because it's, I think in the video there somebody said, you know, it's a country town at heart, but it's a burgeoning city. So what comes with that is this sense of right that I can park right out the front of the shop to get whatever it is I want. And that flows on to the business too. They sort of think, I need that customer to park right there. So trying to educate and bring them on the journey about the economic benefit of actually having people in the space and creating places for people, not cars, is a journey and a challenge, but, you know, stick to it. But so really from parking day, it was a great success. And that implemented the test, trial and scale approach that we've been doing. And so the benefits of test, trial and scale really, risk mitigation. So you can do those small scale projects to flesh out procedures and issues that might arise and work through them to refine it before you start doing like a larger scale version of something. Cost effective, smaller budget, you know, easier to get across the line. And I think sometimes too, it's getting that foot in the door and getting the, you know, everybody else in the organisation to sort of see the benefit of it and how easily and effective those placemaking activities can be. Your community engagement. I don't know if I need to explain that one because we've all been talking about it, but it really does just make sure that everybody's aware of what you're trying to do and you're getting that quality engagement from the businesses and the community so that there's support and understanding about what you're wanting to do. And just that you've then got them on the journey, you know, to support you through it. The flexibility with the small scales, you can pivot, you know, you come up and you actually hit a real hard no and you can't sort of work around it. You can adapt and find the way. So it's like we say all the time, what if? And so we get a lot of no's without any sort of offer of resolution. So it's okay, but what if? And yes, and. So yes, that might be our current local law. And if we look at this, or, you know, just trying to keep that conversation going. So the small scale, you've got that ability to pivot and flex. And then the best bit is the evidence-based decision making. So when you're doing your post-event feedback, you've got that quality data that's quantitative and qualitative and quantitative. So evaluating the outcomes, which allows for your informed decision making and internal processes so that you can deliver effective projects. So, and then from that, you're going to get genuine buy-in when you're trying to do scale up. And I think that's really as much buy-in as you can get is where you're at. The street patio. The parking day and the success of all that then led us on to doing that larger scale and investing. Council invested in purchasing our street patio, which fell under, like with the place plans, creating places for people. So we have spoken a bit about this, but before I sort of go on, I just thought, is there anybody that wants to ask questions, or is there anything specifically you want to know about how we got to actually have that in the street? We can do it later, but I just thought, yeah.
Can you just explain the car parking concept? Like the parking day? The parking day.
Oh, the parking day. So that's a global sort of event that happens.
Yeah.
And
so it was started in San Francisco a number of years ago. It's a global participatory movement. And the same weekend every year, they say it's parking day. And you could go, actually, we're just going to shut down the car parks for one day, or you can do all 3 days. And people choose whatever they want to do. So for our businesses, for us, it was very much about outdoor dining. We had also we had arts and crafts. We had these spinners and weavers. We had a musician. We had the community. Put them in the car park instead of having a car. Yeah. So that's basically what it is.
Yeah, so, and we just sort of hired props. So, you know, you had your picket fence and your artificial turf and the wine barrels and stools, umbrellas. So it was, you know, it had the look and people driving through. So it slows traffic down. And then it was just really great. Like a lot of the businesses were, like I said, burn us at the stake.
Lots of emails to the mayor's office. So lots of reassuring.
Idea of what
like to have?
To change perception, really.
Yes.
Yeah. And to also for the businesses, they think that you're taking away their car park, therefore they're not going to get any customers. But actually what we found from Parking Day is that we had a business come to us and say, Friday was the most successful day I've ever had in business, period. And that was a coffee shop. And so it's like, and he was a bit on the fence about, I don't know. We had another business which was a bit more of a cafe. And again, they were run off their feet. They could not keep up with the demand. Now, it happened to be right outside where they were. So they already had footpath dining, but their footpath dining was never as successful as when it was when we had Parking Day. So it's just, what are those other elements and activations which actually supported the businesses to make that a big success?
And a lot of our critical feedback that we get is that there's not enough parking in top of town. A lot of that. And so that's where I was saying about this mindset where it's like, there's no parks. And it's like, there's so many parks. It's just you don't want to walk 2 meters, So it was really about sort of pushing through. And we did have to do a lot of consultation because council was getting a lot of pushback from community and business around taking 6 car parks. So, and again, going back to establishing those corridor conversations and having those essential critical conversations with your elected reps and other members in the organisation to support you, because even when the councillors are out and getting that, a person stopping them in the street, understanding the why we're doing it, and that the benefit is that, these businesses had a great 3 days of, the economic growth was really, really good. So,
And you mentioned it was
done
just once a year.
Yes, I was going to say, unfortunately, we couldn't do it the following year, but resources. We sort of just couldn't. We tried and we almost sort of.
Yeah, and I think obviously for us at that point in time, the branch manager leave, and so the team was a little bit in a spot.
We were spread thin.
Yeah.
Sorry, on the Parking Day, did you promote that to the community?
Yes, absolutely.
Like a media release that was on the socials.
We created it as an event on Facebook as well. So we really we made sure that people knew about it, but it was interesting being there and just the number of people driving through going, what is this? And you think if this was general day to day, if this was the norm and just people buzzing around coffee shops and, no one would question it, but it's like, oh, what's happening? Like this is different to the normal.
So like I said, we then went on and we've secured to street patio. And what's interesting is that we were going to trial it in 4 different areas around Ipswich in over a 12-month period. This is it outside the 3rd location, which is Monty Lane, a tapas, wine bar and a pizzeria. And the number of businesses in top of town that requested, put an EOI out to have the street patio. So we could have actually done the trial in the same street that's, like cover off 200 metres, but that wasn't really the point of it. But it just, we went from where it's like you can't take a car park to can I have it outside my business? So it was really good.
And what does that tangibly look like?
No, so on the inside there, it's literally a bench seating. So it's got the timber boards and it has the ramp so that it's disabled and pram friendly. And then it just has bench seating in there. So the first location was outside a cafe and they put tables and chairs in there, so we didn't need to do supply that. And Monty Lane have actually used it as a band setup. They put tables and chairs in there, but then on every Sunday they start. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of ourselves. They activate the space with support from council. Like we had some budget to activate the street patio in each location to just help draw attention and trial it and see how the community wanted to use it, how did the business use it. So part of that was live music, and Monty Lane have brought on Latino, band, and so they went from a Sunday where they weren't sure if they were going to continue trade to having the Latino band to it being like a complete festival, and the relationship building that you do. I got a text, I don't know what time it was on a Sunday afternoon with the video, you know, it was packed, the whole street and the music, and they were just beside themselves. So now Sunday's one of their best days. So this is where it's at. And that lends to why is it small business friendly, but beyond that as well, we had the wrap designed. So we put an EOI out to local artists to design a wrap for the street patio. So they did that. Sorry, I'll just grab my notes. So the activations, we engaged a local consultant group to construct and organise the activations for each area. So again, that was taking away from, you know, resource from us and just getting somebody else to sort of do those activations. And that included artists, the little library, borrow stations, drawings, caricatures, and so each location sort of doing activations that would be relevant to that location. Yeah. Yeah.
In those spaces.
So yeah, I was going to say when somebody mentioned the local laws.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things, I guess, with our traffic and transport team are quite supportive of the street patios, period. They want to lower speed limits and make sure that we, you know, have activated streets. So that's one thing. So again, bring it back to their strategies. What are we delivering on for them? And then with the local laws, we are going through a bit of a process at the moment about Ipswich Central being like that entertainment venue or nighttime, you know, bringing in that sort of nighttime. And the Investment Council has already done in the Nicholas Street precinct, which is at the centre of our project, but we don't manage. That has also got that focus. It's an entertainment precinct. So we know that Ipswich Central is going to be very entertainment focused. So we have had to work with the local laws team to say, yes, we do want bands on the street or buskers or whatever that looks like. And how can we make this happen? Not a no. How can we make this happen? What are those enabling things? So it has been a process. It has been a journey. And we're even taking that one step further and working through a live and local program as well. So it's like, again, this is just like a drop in the ocean. And then we move to shift to the bigger long-term change that we want to see.
Yeah, because I was going to say, so, but specifically to answer the permit question, we don't need a permit for this. But when we first brought it on, I remember being upstairs talking to planning about something. And as I was walking away, someone shouted at me going, you're going to need a
building certification.
Building permit for that thing in the street. And I just stopped and thought, okay, no, we don't. But it was, you know, I think it was like 10 mil over building regs as far as what they would classify as a permanent structure and needing a building permit. And I thought, oh my God. Anyway, so again, having that conversation saying it's not permanent.
Yeah, but it isn't. So it isn't permanent. So we could go get a tow truck.
I said it's on wheels.
Yeah.
You just can't see them.
Truck and pick that up tomorrow and it goes away. So it's not a permanent structure. So it's getting really definite with them about what it is, because they love to categorize everything in the same bucket.
And it's something new. So, you know, as soon as you bring something new in, everyone pops up to go, why you can't do that?
Yeah.
So
and like we even talked with our legal team, they're like, well, you need signage on it and show people how to use it.
Sorry if there's any legals in the team.
But that came down to, well, actually, you know, do we put a sign on a seat bench to tell someone how to use it? Because this is the same thing.
Honestly,
and they're like, well, no, but, you know, and so then it's just getting them to think, what are you actually asking for? And how are you making this, you know, easy or more difficult?
Yeah. They wanted, and legal wanted to put the onus and responsibility of the street patio onto the business that we were trying to support. And I went, okay, that's not small business friendly. No, it's not going to work. Anyway, so it is. I was going to say, it looks great and it's amazing and a lot of people love it. people hate it at the same time, but it is by far the minority. It's so supported, and Monty Lane don't want it to move. But so the thing is that what we want to try and demonstrate is how we can sort of build out areas of the footpath to encourage more footpath dining, the local laws, the nighttime economy. So the butterfly, the effect of it is just, it really does just ripple on. So it's,
and then the next step for us, I guess, is the longer term, again, is either we change this so that it's not a street patio and it becomes a more permanent footpath. So that's something else we're looking into. But in the interim, we also have now looked at street patio policy, guidelines and procedures. And again, bringing them onto the journey. So this is not something we've had before. This is something new. How do we now progress? But it all started with parking day and just breaking down those barriers, small, getting a little bit bigger. Now we're in semi-permanent space, with the goal to move to a permanent space. Yeah.
yes.
So yeah, I was reviewing all of what they
Yeah.
in relation to make
Yeah. So we're in the
Interesting,
process
yeah.
of doing street patio policy, procedure and guidelines. And so that we can then just sort of take this, and businesses can submit an expression of interest for it to be located outside their business, whether or not we procure more or so. Yeah. So we're just finalising those documents.
One thing I'll say about Victoria is quite different with the road rules in comparison to Queensland. So that's actually where we came, because we went back to Victoria going, there's everywhere down south. Like, why is that so hard here? And that's probably the crux of the question. Why is it so hard here? What are those things that we need to actually shift long term to make it easier? Short,
Yeah.
So,
and again, that I was going to say, I forgot to mention that we engaged a transport engineer, and they assessed areas that we'd sort of identified and thinking that this could be a good spot for it. And we've got, how many page document is it? 50-page document of where we can't and why we can't do it. It's things like, stormwater drains, power box, ramp access, bus stops, corners, speed, traffic lights, awnings. So there are a lot of things. So again, I think that's why we sort of talked about having that group and thinking who would you engage, because you can't overthink that. But it's also be prepared to fail, and that's like, yep, so that didn't work there and that's why. So how do we, we pivot from that? So encourage you to do it. So on that, what I'd say is we go on to that next little breakout and just have a think about your own area and implementing a small placemaking activity that you could work on with possible long-term outcomes. And to help think about what you might want to do is there's, if you think about a favourite place that you like to go to, what are the elements that you love about it? Like, what is it that draws you to that place? And think, well, okay, how can I put that in action here? So we'll just give you a couple of minutes to talk about putting something in action. Yeah. But that was when you feel like you won't get as many questions.
And I think so that's just 2 years you can also, yeah, I understand.
Okay, I'm going to bring it back because we're running short on time. But it's so nice hearing all the conversations. Ding, ding, ding. So thanks, Luke. It's like interpretive dance. That was great. It's really, I was just saying to Erin, it's so nice seeing all of that conversation. So we won't sort of recap on that. That was just really to sort of go from what we've been talking about to sort of capture something for you to take away with. But what I did want to just sort of say is on the journey through everything that you're going through, the value of bringing in the subject matter experts, like we brought in the team to do the activations, but we also, you know, bringing in external consultants really does give you that cut through. And I think it's a bit like parenting, you know, like you can say something to the kids ad nauseum, but as soon as, you know, auntie comes in or somebody else, it's like, oh yes, okay, I'll do it. You know, I feel like consultants are the same sort of thing with the organisation. So great value there. So from that, I'll hand over to Erin. Yeah. I'll let Erin. Yeah.
No, they didn't. They only work with the Ipswich Central Partnership. But I'll explain a little bit more because the little next step, you know, it's fine. I'm happy to talk to you about Town Team Movement or anyone who's interested in learning more and putting you in contact. Yeah, perfect. All right. So obviously placemaking was new in Ipswich, and what we wanted to do was to actually bring everyone on that journey. So we actually had the opportunity to do this, and basically this was a thought leadership event, a ticketed event which we put out there, and we wanted to bring in those experts to talk about placemaking. So I don't know if any of you are aware of an organisation in the US called Better Blocks. They're amazing. If you haven't heard of them, definitely look them up, or I can share their web address. We had an opportunity. Krista Nightingale, who heads up Better Block, was out here in Australia, and we had an opportunity to do an event with her. So we took that opportunity and took it one step further, got some other experts in the room. Stephen Burgess from Complete Streets. Again, if you don't know him, check him out. He's amazing, very good with parking. And then we had Dean Cracknell, who obviously heads up Town Team Movement. He was amazing. And we had Brooke Williams from Fourfold Studio, who did help and assist with us through this journey in bits and pieces, because I was a team of one at the time. So I just needed some extra help with some of that engagement activity. And so for this event, we opened it up. We did a ticketed event. It was open to professionals, and we also ended up getting students involved. We actually had 25 planning students from UQ, and it was actually such a delightful thing to see them. Here's these people who are super green in their first year of planning, and to be able to bring them on the journey to help them explain what we were doing. So the purpose of Better Block in the US is that they go into towns over a period of time and they look at how they can change a vacant block or something like that. And then they work with the community through that process, and then they come out with a result. In our instance, we got those experts to talk about the theory behind it, and then we took everyone out and we started doing the doing. So it was actually about transforming a space in Ipswich into something better for the community. So this is Better Block. No. Okay. No. Try again. It doesn't come up. Starting.
It's Ipswich today. I am seeing the community's hard work all come to life.
Do you want me to? Try again. That's not playing, but it's not visually playing. We've got Wi-Fi. I can copy the link and just play it from that.
So while they're sorting that out, a little bit of background for everyone. So off the back of COVID, we had Victoria government did a whole heap of parklets. Summertime activation, they called it down south, off the back of the San Francisco kind of model. And that was really great success through COVID, because obviously it was about trying to get people outdoors, spread them out so they could still have their coffee or whatever, but weren't infecting each other. So off the back of that, we ran the summertime task force at the QSBC and tried to get the state government kind of decision makers around the table to help actually get some of those roadblocks out of the way. And yeah, transport main roads was kind of constantly talked about as being one of the key road blocks. And when we talked to the head, that was more of an interpretation issue from a lot of local people, but there's not the roadblocks that you might think. So off the back of that, the Queensland Government departments have committed to working with you should you want to do a parklet type project, and they've basically been told to help you make it happen within the rules that are there. So lots of opportunities. I was talking to Emma while they were getting the video going. You can buy parklets off the shelf if you want. You can set them up temporarily. The advantage of the off-the-shelf ones is they've got like traffic impact protection built into them. So it's not just a frame with a bit of canvas on it. It's actually designed to help protect the occupants as well. The advantage of those is they're towable. You can move them around the place. You control them in locations so that iterate, start small, drop, scale up. Lots of opportunities then to turn those into permanent footpath dining kind of precincts or community areas. So yeah.
Right, we're going to do this a little bit different.
In Ipswich today, I am seeing the community's hard work all come to life.
We've been talking about placemaking all day, and then this afternoon we've been out actually doing placemaking and improving public spaces. Lots of energy and laughter, so it's been good to see.
We've had some incredible presentations this morning. They're incredibly inspiring, and seeing people do this all around the globe, I think, is something that can inspire any town.
We're building a movement of positive doers, so it's fantastic to see new positive doers in Ipswich.
Our ultimate goal is to not be needed, and for folks to understand they already have the tools, the power, the knowledge, and the resources. They can go out and they can make the changes that they're wanting to see. Ipswich has drawn councils from all over the region and state government here today, and it's been a really good demonstration, I think, for all of Queensland to be able to see what it takes, but also what you can achieve when we all get hands on. Communities should be doing this because this is their space. They are the ones who live here. They're the ones who work here. They're the ones who play here. So ultimately, this is the area that impacts them the most. So when community is there creating these spaces together, they're just creating elements that will make their lives so much better.
Let's just close that window. So one thing I will say about Better Block is that while council actually supported, obviously we ran the event in the morning, and then obviously we had everyone get involved with the activation. We then had the Ipswich Central Partnership take over in the evening, and they ran their own talent show. And so that was actually in conjunction with the businesses, and they managed to rally up some money to have a prize. They had all the talent. So then that was like another way that, you know, you can't really get a performer for a couple of $100, but you can have a whole talent show for a couple of $100. And so all the parts that we used through that process to actually make that space better were used through the evening. So from start of the day to the end of the day, completely transformed space.
Also, I was just going to say, point out too, because a lot of the time we're, you know, tight budgets, but as you can see in that video, there were just tires placed, you know, and kids jumping through them. So it's sometimes don't overcomplicating and sort of thinking it's got to be big and amazing when, you know, a couple of tires and the kids are jumping all over them. So
obviously we talked a lot about evidence-based and the value of that. And obviously these projects help build, help with budget builds and what you're aiming for from a capital perspective. But these are just some of the key takeaways that we've had from some of our projects. So we've had 63 new businesses move into Ipswich Central since 2021. We've had 14 placemaking activities completed by the Ipswich Central Partnership. So that's with our support, but they're leading those. We've had 8 other place plan activities by the communities, other community groups that have taken on board those activities. We've had more than 300 people volunteer to revitalise Ipswich Central. We've had 24 businesses participate in our facade improvement program, which was a dollar matched funding program. We, as a council, ended up contributing $260,000 over 2 periods of time. And we ended up with $750,000 worth of physical investment from business owners. So just that little bit in, and what we've done now is some other programs.
Yeah, I was going to say, so again, it's that building on what we've done. We've just launched Frame the Front Door, which is very simple in this, bringing in some simple greenery around the business entrances to draw attention, but also to help beautify the street. And that came about from, we had Louise Grimmer come up and do a presentation, and the power of adding greenery. So you're just constantly getting more and more community engagement and confidence from the businesses and the community that you're doing the right thing, and bring it on. And we also had another from the Better Block, another passionate resident went on and started the Brighter Brassel group to sort of do activities in his suburb. We're getting the hurry up.
So quickly, the key takeaways. So figure out who needs to be involved internally and externally. Bringing the community plus our internal people on board is so important. What strategies or plans does this connect to make this worthwhile? From think about your mayor and councillors. What are they going to be asking for? And who's your champion or advocate? You need that person in your pocket to basically go to be that person to escalate things. You need that to actually succeed.
Or multiple.
Yeah, or multiple. Yeah. So action. So what are your key actions and how do you prioritize them? Think about giving time, budget to them so everyone's really clear about what's needed. who are those businesses you can work with? We all know there's some businesses out there that are fantastic and will jump on board every time you offer something great. And there's those other ones that are always the namesayers, be like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want the parking.
But don't shy away from those ones.
Yeah.
Because they're actually who you need to convert and bring on.
And then how do you measure success? What's that qualitative and quantitative? And then I guess from placemaking, it is still up and coming in Queensland, but from my perspective and also Michelle at Noosa Shire Council, we've actually set up a Queensland Placemaking Network so that we can actually talk to other local governments and talk about the challenges we've had or how perhaps we can actually help other local governments step through some of the things that we've done. And so if anyone is interested in joining that, there's about 25 people on there at the moment. We've got 10 councils, so I'd love to see some more councils involved. So yeah, come and see me about that one. Town Team Movement, amazing. Dean Cracknell, I'm happy to put you in touch with him. He's really, really great. And then obviously, like, we're all local governments and we're all trying to achieve a lot with very little budget and very little resources. So lean on each other. And I guess, that's what we've learned through this process is just, reach out. If someone's done something successfully that you like, find out how they did it, because if it can save you time and money in recreating the wheel, then obviously it's going to benefit everyone in the long term.
Thank you.
Thanks. Sorry.
No, don't apologise. Great information. Wonderful. Thank you. What a cracking example of placemaking, particularly using lots of different strategies and tactics along the way. Just reflecting really quickly, dotmocracy, what a great term, engage your community always. Again, hearing those conversations are key, right? Having those conversations with your businesses, with your leadership team internally, get the roadblocks out of the way, get buy-in before you start to try and do something. Test, trial, scale, oldie but a goodie. Also, when you're testing and you're trialing, communicating that particularly to your leadership team and to your councillors, give them the talking points. So they've got the back pocket brief, and when Billy walks up and goes, my car park space, then councillor so-and-so can pull it out and go, well, this is the return. Qualitative, quantitative data, just gold. Layers, like a great cake, layers, right? So it's, or a tort or whatever you fancy, but it's about layers. So build a small test trial scale, same thing. Start the conversations with little easy local wins. Car parks, parklets, get one, trial it, have a little go, short, temporary, give it a crack, just have a go. It doesn't have to be an expensive thing. You can stand some of these things up really low cost. Get the players on board early, really, really important. I think the main takeaway for me was beyond you trying to do it as councils, get your business community, get your broader community involved. So don't just try to do it by yourselves. I've got a great idea, I'm going to do it, and then two people turn up because you didn't communicate, you didn't engage. Like the lady said right at the end in the video there, it's their community. Get them back involved, and that's what placemaking is all about. It's trying to get away from just an old street that no one does anything anymore. Now I'm getting the hurry up. Thanks, Sharon. Without further ado, we'll move on. I would like to introduce our next speaker. So Angela is from Renew Australia, CEO of Renew Australia. I'm pleased to announce on behalf of Dom, because you're getting the early heads up this morning, we have partnered with Renew Australia, QSBC and Renew Australia, to offer a regional place activation program for our SBF members. We did have to limit it size-wise to our local governments with a population of 50,000 or less, but we've partnered with them to provide a bit of a hybrid opportunity with one of their programs. So I won't steal any more of Angela's thunder. She'll talk you through it. So please welcome Angela.
Thank you so much for having me today, everybody. Thank you for the lovely introduction. Now, Sharon, how long do I have? 5, 10, 25, 15. I'm the speaker up before lunch, and as an avid food fan, I absolutely understand that we do not want to be late for lunch. So I'm here to speak about an exciting little project that my team at Renew Australia and the team at QSBC have been working on for some time. We're going to give you a little bit of information about it today, but I'm sticking around all day. So if you have any questions, come and see me. I'd be more than happy to talk to you about a bit of the detail later on. Now I'm going with arrows on this, I'm assuming. Yep. All right. So that's the other thing. Please call me out. I'm a walker and a talker. So as I move away from the microphone, I apologise. But to begin with, who's Renew Australia? Well, you may not have heard of us. You might have heard about our predecessor, or you might have heard about our independent projects. But we are the umbrella initiative that is a not-for-profit with DGR1 status and a certified social enterprise. And we support communities across Australia to activate otherwise empty space. So if you've got empty spaces in your community, they don't have to just be retail. They could be sheds. They could be weird little holes that people serve coffee out of. They could be anything. So we're not talking about high-end retail spaces, though we do those as well. We're talking about activating vacant spaces. Now, we do this by working with creative industries and small business, people who make or create their own wares or IP, people who are looking to get a visible location where they can connect with the community and potentially engage, whether that's through art, small business or otherwise. As you can see, we've launched over more than 260 small businesses. Actually, to be more accurate, it's more like 400 in 260 spaces, some of them small, some of them large, some of them large enough to share. So the first thing that I wanted to talk to you about today, which leads into why we're making this announcement, is a lot of people contact Renew Australia regularly and say, we'd love to do a shop activation project, but we're a really small town and we simply don't have the budget. But we do have the willpower, the volunteers, the staff members in council who are capable. And so, inspired by Ipswich's wonderful presentation about Bell Street, I want you to think about that grassroots approach when I tell you a little bit about the program we're doing today. So we're hoping through the partnership with QSBC to take these boundaries away, to take those reasons to not proceed out of the picture, so you can think about if you'd like to participate in a project that is paid for by the Queensland Small Business Commissioner. So, what is the Regional Place Activation Program? Well, as I've mentioned, we're hoping to partner with QSBC and mentor you, your community, in how to run a DIY Renew initiative. What that means is that it will be covering towns with a population of less than 50,000 that are small business friendly program members. And I will note, if your population is over 50,000, we might have a little discount available if you happen to be a Queensland Small Business member. And councils with internal resourcing to do a DIY project. And I'll talk about that resourcing in a moment, because sometimes it's at great scale, other times it is not. So we can certainly talk about the requirements of resourcing later today. And thank you for handing out those little brochures coming to the table now. I'll talk to you about those in just a moment. Now, the video, is it going to load? Yes. So I just wanted to show you a really quick video before we get into some nitty gritty. This is actually from Broken Hill, a regional town that ran a DIY Renew project. And this is a wonderful little video about one of the small businesses and one of the owners. And I'll tell you a little bit more about the detail about how it works afterwards. If it works. Any assistance on play? Yes, twice. I'll press it again, see what happens. No. No worries. Well, I'll tell you what, you get more me talking and less video. So not a big deal. We'll come back to that in just a moment. But look, what I really wanted to talk to you about is why these projects are so effective. And that really begins with the fact that we're looking to engage the community from a placemaking perspective. Often placemaking is considered between the road and the shop front. And so a project like Renew is often adjacent or complementary to your broader placemaking activities. But what we do know is that vacancy hinders our small businesses from thriving that do exist on our street. What we're looking to do through occupying vacant space is to, in its most simple form, put bums on seats, drive activity and reasons to visit, whether they're artist workshops where you might come into the city or your town on a Wednesday night where you wouldn't normally, through to a small business trying to trial an idea in a bricks and mortar location. This project could be for you. So you might be thinking, this sounds a bit too good to be true. How does this actually work? Well, we've worked really hard with the QSBC team to try and make this as low on the council resources as possible. What we're really looking at here is manpower and collaboration from your departments. So QSBC will be funding an affiliate micro membership for 12 months, which is a standard Renew offer where we help you access the tools you need to run this project. They'll be funding that, but they've also chosen to fund a training package and a data collection package, which means it's going to be easier for us all to understand the return on investment, but also track the activity of the project as it proceeds. Now, QSBC will be helping Renew select the nominated councils or the councils who choose to apply, and then it comes over to my team. So as I mentioned, we're going to be running an expression of interest for councils that would like to apply. It will be available on our website in July, and on the brochures you have in front of you, there's a QR code there and a little bit more detail about what I'm speaking to today. So, as I mentioned, we're going to be providing training and support. That means training sessions, but also monthly check-ins, assistance with questions that you might have about process and methodology. But we're also providing you our logo, so you have some legitimacy in your project that will be recognised beyond your small town or community. But more importantly, we're helping you de-risk the situation. Part of our affiliate membership includes project insurance for the operational consulting. It also offers access to our national broken glass, public liability and product liability insurance that we manage on behalf of the participant. So if we are going to be moving into these vacant shops, this program comes with a certain amount of insurance to de-risk your involvement. So what will council actually need to do if you wish to participate in this project? Well, they'll need to staff the project. Now, I want to be really clear. This could be very much led by council and supported by your community. It doesn't mean that you need everybody in your council working on this project, not at all. On average, for our large-scale projects, our project managers work 3 days a week on a project. But when you're talking about a smaller or micro project, you might find that you work a day a week in the first month, getting everybody aware of what's going on. And once your project is up and running, you might only be offering half a day a week from your team to run the project. It really depends on how many shops you're activating and, of course, how on board your local community is. But more importantly, we'll be asking our project managers to fill out surveys monthly so we can help you actually report on your project. But it's really, really important that council build relationships, because in order to do a project like this, you need to ask to borrow a space. Now, we'll go into the detail of that in a second, but we are talking about rent-free activation, where we are borrowing spaces for a limited period of time, or sometimes ongoing, until a commercial opportunity can be found. Now, some people might ask me questions later about why on earth you would do that. Well, there's lots of reasons, but really it's about maintaining commercial value for the property owner. The more people who use your main street, the more valuable their property is. So we need to think about what we want out of this, which is incubating small business, supporting creatives and artists, but we also need to think about what is our sell? Why are we asking people to lend us property? And we'll get into that in just a moment. But ultimately, You would be running the project. It would be adapted to your needs with our support. And I think it's really important to note that even when Renew Australia runs a project themselves, we actually hire from the local community. We have knowledge, but we understand that knowledge needs to be tailored to the context of the local place. And hopefully after lunch today, you'll actually get to meet my Cairns-based staff member, who Sam from Cairns Council is very familiar with. Phil is actually a Cairns local, has been for many, many years, and he actually has run our project up here. We'll also be providing some additional resourcing, templates, project plans, things like that to help get you started. But ultimately, it's really about your community using spaces that are left there unused, unwanted or unloved, and turning those into vibrant places where your community can engage, can build, and can be together instead of being elsewhere and separated from their main street. So look, there's lots of outcomes to activation. I mentioned those only a moment ago, and as I have a short period of time today, I don't want to keep drilling down on benefits, but we're looking to generate footfall. We're looking to retain commercial value through occupancy. We are looking to complement your leasing and sales strategy, agents, owners, and anyone in real estate. I am not a barrier to your success. In fact, we have a great success that when we're using spaces as art galleries or showrooms, when the lights are on, when the windows are clean, when the space is loved, commercial tenants see opportunity. So if you can be generous enough as a property owner to give your property to a program like this, you may find that you financially benefit afterwards. So we're talking about critical mass. I think it's really important that we consider here that our traders who already exist in our main streets, in our communities, in our regions are struggling. And they are struggling not just because of COVID. Retail spaces were reducing in footprint long before COVID hit our shores. And we really need to think about a demonstration of future use. How can we get businesses that we don't traditionally see on the main street in our towns, in our communities, somewhere visible where they can engage with you, the population, and hopefully grow their business, but also connect. So who wins? Government. Council get to have a street or a region or a place which is vibrant and has something happening. Small business. We get to incubate small business ideas. We allow people to trial an idea with minimal overheads so they can decide if they can meet the market. We're also looking at skills development. How do these people learn while they're in there? How can we connect them to other resources that you may already be offering as a council? But we're really talking about improved brand awareness. This could be a place where you come to do an arts workshop. This could be a place that you come to meet as a collective. And of course, speaking to the placemaking that we've been talking about today, a cared and loved Main Street. I think cared for is really important. I cannot tell you what occupancy can do to the morale of a main street. Clean windows, less graffiti. Sometimes it actually doesn't take a task force. It just takes usage. And of course, we love the creative industries and economies, and we very much hope to be helping those thrive by giving them spaces where they can connect with the community. And now I want to embarrass him because he's just walked in. So can everyone turn around and give Phil a little wave? Hey, Phil! For those of you on video, that's Phil, who I was speaking about earlier. Take a seat, Phil. You're good. So Phil's our Cairns local. If you have any questions about how you actually run a project, Phil's been doing that for me up here for some time now. So the benefits to traders, we've sort of touched on this, avoidance of mitigation of blight and antisocial behaviour. When we took over a space in Geelong, which is a regional centre in Victoria, a really great example is where all the regional buses arrived was an empty section of Main Street because of the antisocial behaviour that was happening as people disembarked these buses rowdy on a Saturday morning. And there were multiple sites that were old banks that had been empty. The front were covered in graffiti. It smelt like urine. and it was just a place for smokers. Unfortunately, it was also on a current affair when someone decided to punch somebody in the face who was over 90. It was a place that did not have a reputation that you want to be in, that you want to stay in, or that you might even walk through. In fact, many women I know from Geelong would cross the street and actually go to a different part of town and divert their way because of this particular area. We moved into that site rent-free, and we began cleaning the windows, stripping the decals, and asking people to say, you know, it's okay that you hang here, but do you mind if you smoke 2 metres to the left? Kindly working with the community to say, hey, we're looking to activate this space so you can come and use it in the future. And without a heavy hand, but just from demonstration of what we wanted to do, the community began to support us. The urine stopped. The graffiti stopped. And in fact, we'd get some of the most disengaged members of the community popping their head in to say hi and engage with the artwork or the small business that was there because they felt welcome, because it was a space that was previously unloved and they felt they were part of the renewal, the rejuvenation and the revitalisation. So it's really important that we really think about the respectfulness to our neighbours and existing traders. Anyone participating in a Renew Australia project will be asked to adhere to our complement, not compete policy. If we are giving spaces low rent or rent-free to emerging startup small businesses, we must consider who is already on our main street. At no time through these projects do we wish to disrespect existing traders and how hard they're working to keep their heads above water. Instead, the messaging in this project is drive foot traffic, new reasons to visit, and work together and collaborate. So, benefits to property owners. There are so many. As an example, building insurance. You leave a building empty and idle for more than 6 months and your insurance company finds out in a commercial dwelling, your insurance increases. So as an example, a very large scale old pub that I'm dealing with the property owner in Melbourne, it is formerly a Backpackers. And when it was a Backpackers, he paid building insurance for $30,000 a year. It is now empty. And his insurance premium for the building alone is $300,000+ a year. So just by occupying a space, we may not be talking those numbers, but we can certainly look at saving money for the property owner by participating in the project. But we might also demonstrate the future use. Give that property owner an opportunity to see something other than a nail salon or a newsagent or another real estate agent in their space. But maybe they're going to give a group of guys who code games for computers a go. You never know. These are the businesses that we often see slip out of our communities and go to the big smoke because they don't think there's space for them to grow. This type of activation, empty space in your town, could be the place for the next small business of the future. Now, we can talk about tax breaks, all of that. That's boring. You can come and ask me questions about that later on. But ultimately, there are reasons that people want to participate, and it's not just for the good of the community. Sometimes they're financial. So Renew Cairns in year 2 was a managed project by Renew Australia, and I just wanted to give you a comparison between a DIY project that happened after this. Now, when you see the cost of this, that included all staffing, legal reviews, everything we needed to do, accounting, insurance. So it may seem like a big number to a small town, but when you think about one staff member costed to a project, ultimately the project itself isn't the expensive part, it's your time. Now, we do this comparison here for larger projects so people can see the difference between opening shops for 365 days a year versus a one-off grant that might be economic development or a creative arts grant. They are not bad ideas. In fact, they're really important, particularly to our creative industries. But projects like this are slow burners. And they are quietly capacity building creatives and small businesses all year long, not just for one event. But this is the one you're going to be interested in. Cooma. Anyone been to Cooma? Yeah, little town outside essentially what is a metropolis of Canberra. This was a really great example of how a DIY project like QSBC is offering can really have impact. So they invested $5,000, which was part of their membership at the time. And they actually had multiple theses written on the project because they had so many academics locally who wanted to celebrate it. They actually calculated a return of just under $370,000 for the project. Obviously, that is a massive return on investment. But what's really important here is the key to their success was a local champion. The person who ran the project worked in the Visitor Information Centre. And I wouldn't say a single person came into Cooma without being told, oh, we've got an antique shop over here and we've got a jeweller over here and there's someone who does repurposed furniture over here. So when I'm talking about staffing and I'm talking about what's really required, it's actually buy-in more than time. Because if you have someone like Betty at the Visitor Information Centre who tells everyone she meets at the tennis club, but every tourist and also at the petrol station about this initiative, you will see a lot of grassroots organic growth. Also, focusing on a small area is really beneficial. Places like Cairns are really challenging due to foreign ownership, due to the scale of the spaces and the sizes. What you're looking at are more traditional spaces that are easier to convert on a short-term basis. And access to property owners. In a small town, if you can get the benefits out there early, you can get them to buy in. The minute they get a chance to see their shop loved and not be framed as the bad guy, because that's a conversation we can have off mic, but I'm pretty sure that most of us in here who work alongside or in councils often find that property owners are our nemesis or enemy because we're always asking them to do something and their response is parking, 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 bins, bins, bins. But really importantly, with a little bit of financial investment from QSBC, with support from Renew Australia, you too can run your own project. So, last but not least, it's all about the people. If you can get people using your precinct, using your spaces, much like Ipswich has told you earlier with their parklets or with Bell Street, you will find they bring their friends, they bring their family, they bring their business network, and that will benefit your broader small business community. So, scan the QR code on the brochure or on the presentation here and you'll get some more information. And if you have any questions about that nitty gritty or any other information, please come and see me today. I'd be happy to chat. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Angela. Yeah, great little program. We're really, really proud to partner with Renew. Been doing a lot of great stuff for a long time. Lots of organisations, not lots, but a few organisations in that space. But Renew's really got some good exemplars of what they've been able to do across the country. But really looking to give that opportunity to our smaller SBF members to help reinvigorate some of those little country towns. I know Dom and I have been through a lot of small towns where we've seen some of those vacant shop fronts, and we really think just giving you access to a little bit of help to try and run a cracking program will give you that inspiration to grow those and to have another go and do some more. For our bigger members, I'd like to hope you can dip into your pockets just a little bit and have a crack at doing one of those programs in maybe one of your smaller towns within your broader local government area. So really love to have more councils on board, the bigger end of town, if you want to join us as well. And what a cracking logo. Love the logo. Yeah, some great colours there. There it is. Just some key takeaways for me really quickly. I won't hold you up from lunch, but the LY will open soon, so please have a crack. We do have limited spaces in the program, but again, what have we heard all morning? It's about building a coalition of the willing. This program is not about product camping; it's about complementing. So really important to spruik that to your local business community when you're doing it. But this is complementary as well to your other programs. So Ipswich's example, whole heap of different opportunities you can do to placemake, whether it's parklets, whether it's little events, whether it's a Renew program, bringing that all together. That good layer example again, just like the logo. But bring it all together to actually try and complement the variety of approaches that you might be undertaking to do your local placemaking. So that concludes this workshop around placemaking. Thank you for joining us online. Thank you very much. Hopefully we'll see you back online at 1:15 p.m. for our Insights workshop, and TIQ is in the house. So thank you very much for joining us. But for those here at Cairns, please join us for lunch outside. We'll see you back here at 1:15. Thank you.